Chris Martin with Creative Domain, and welcome to another exciting tutorial. Today we're going to be playing around with a little MoGraph, and this is what we're going to be doing. So we've got a few effectors going on here, and the text is kind of springing out. It's appearing and then coming forward, and has a delay effector in there. So it's kind of a cool effect. All right, well let's go ahead and get to it. So what I've got here is my basic scene setup. I've got some lights playing in here, a camera. The plane is, I think the width is 1250 and the height is 2900, and we've just got some extruded text in here. Now the first thing you should know is that MoGraph does not work on just regular old text. You've got to make it MoGraph compatible. And the way that you do that is using the fracture object. So with the text selected, I'm going to hold the Alt key down and find the fracture object. The next thing you want to do is come down here to the fracture object, and for the mode we want to select Explode Segments and Connect. And that does basically what it says. It basically takes these and breaks them apart and then reconnects them. So if you didn't select this mode, then these things wouldn't be able to be acted upon with MoGraph effectors individually. It would affect it as a whole. Now something else you'll notice after you get this fracture object on the text is that the text sort of gets sort of weird looking, and that's because it doesn't have any falling information on it. So the easiest way to work that out is just to drag the falling tag from the text up to the fracture object, and it'll get rid of that. And we'll go ahead and we'll put our material on there as well. So now our text looks great. Alright, so let's start putting some effectors on this. I'm going to fold that up, select the fracture object, and I'm going to go down and I am going to find the shader effector. Now let's come to the, actually let's rename this fracture 1618. Now let's come over to the shader effector parameters, and you can see that we have scale selected. Let's turn that off. We'll turn the position on, and we'll give it a Z position of -1000. So that brings it right up to the camera. Let's come over to the fall off tab. Let's change it to linear fall off, inverted, size 100, 100, and let's change this to 216. Let's go to the coordinates tab. X is going to be -620, and let's change our rotation heading to 90. So let me kind of show you what we got going on here. Let's find that shader effector. Let's just move it across. You can see when we move it across, it's going to bring that 1618 up close to the camera. So what I want to do is I want to keyframe this X position of the shader effector. So we'll control click here, and we'll move up to about 35 frames, and let's change that to 480. So let's put a keyframe there, control click. So between 0 and 35, it just throws it up there in front of the camera for us. Alright. Now to get that springy effect, I'm going to use the delay effector. So again, I'm going to select the fracture object, come up here to MoGraph, and we'll find the delay effector. The delay effector is actually pretty easy to use. We want to give it a strength of, let's say, 85, and the mode needs to be turned to spring. And just like magic, our numbers have a little spring to them now. And you can control how much or how little spring by adjusting that number. It has hardly any. You take it up to 100. And that's just weird. 85 seems to be a pretty good number. Oh, anyway, you can play around with that. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to use a plane effector on this. So again, we're going to select the fracture object, come to MoGraph, and we will select our plane effector, which is right here. Let's go to the plane effector, parameters, turn the position off, turn the scale on, uniform scale, and make that -1 to get rid of our text, our numbers. Let's also turn the rotation on and give that a 180 for the heading. I'm going to plug in some fall off numbers here. We'll change it to linear, inverted. Let's see, 430, 330, and 513. And we're going to keyframe our Z position. So let's go up here and take a look at this quad view. We want to keyframe that Z so that it sort of is not visible when we start out. So at 0, I'm going to plug in, let's say 510. Actually, that should be a -510. And we'll give it a keyframe there. And let's take it to 15. And we'll change this to 90. And we'll keyframe that. So what happens is between 0 and 15, our plane effector comes through and animates on our numbers, and then our shader effector comes across and pushes those up to the camera, and then again our delay effector is giving us the spring motion. So let's just run through the timeline here. And it doesn't look bad. Alright, so anyway, that's the tutorial for today. A kind of a cool, quick little easy MoGraph tutorial for you today. My name's Chris Martin for Creative Domain. Hope that helps.